featuring Rich Thompson and Larry D. Jones. This fair chase bow hunt includes 3 years of hunting in Nebraska and Iowa. We'll begin our hunt in Nebraska on land bordering the Niobrara River. Rich and Larry have been granted permission to hunt Steve Hansen's property and adjacent farms. Now let's join Rich, Larry, and Steve Hansen as they discuss the details of the hunt.
Steve, Larry and I are really pumped for the whitetail and turkeys, but what other kind of hunting opportunities are there here in the ranch?
Yeah, well, we do have some more. We've also got mule deer on the property. We've got a duck marsh here. We've got about 2 miles of river frontage, so we've got both ducks and geese. And as far as upland game, we've got a combination of grouse and pheasants, and then small game, we should be able to get some rabbits and squirrels.
Do you have anything to kind of give us a guideline on property lines?
Yeah, I do, and we'll be hunting a combination of private and leased ground. I've got a topo here, but I've got an aerial photo over here on the wall that might be a little easier to look at. So let me take a look at this. Right now, we're located right here, and the northern boundary of the property is made up of the river, the Niobrara River, that flows to the east here. Basically, we're going to be hunting this entire block of land through here. Up on this area, good overview for this area is up on this hillside, showing this transition from grasslands up on top, feeding down into side canyon draws that are pine and mixed hardwoods that are real good habitat for turkey and whitetail, feeding down into riverine habitat down here. So we move up the river, we have a block of land here that we don't have permission to hunt on. So if we do down an animal that goes on that property, we want to make sure to go and obtain permission from the property owner before we try to make a recovery on them.
Sure. Do you have any suggestions to get us started here, Steve?
Well, actually, do have some stands set up on the property, different locations, and later on during the rut, have marked on the map here some traditional rutting areas with scrape lines located here and on up to the river, in through this area here, and down through the canyonlands here. Most of these are found down in the bottom. The other thing that maybe we could do is just move back up on top here and try to, maybe for an evening or two, just try to look at the movement of these deer and try to pattern them and maybe be able to set up some stands from there.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd like to do is watch them for a day or two maybe. We got plenty of time to hunt, so, and then if we can find where they're really kind of fumbling through a spot or passing through an area, we can work it from there.
Sure.
Okay, good.
During the next couple of days, each morning and evening, Rich scouts canyon and forest areas, while Larry selects a high grassy knoll and uses binoculars to watch deer. During 2 days of scouting, Jones has observed deer using the same trails and feed areas, so he moves closer, attempting to select an ambush site. Deer have been passing near a big pine on the edge of the pine hardwood forest, so Larry decides to continue his vigilant watch from its branches. The next morning, while Jones is watching other deer, a buck walks along the forest edge toward the big pine and is within shooting range before Larry notices him. The buck circles and smells danger before Larry has a chance to shoot. Larry D. Jones is an outdoor writer, photographer, and video producer who lives near Springfield, Oregon with his wife Miriam. Since 1961, Jones has bow hunted big game in North America and Africa and is considered one of the West's top bow hunters and game callers. He loves to call wildlife and has designed and developed Jones Calls. Throughout the morning and evening, Jones watches as several deer walk past the same spot. He decides a pit blind near these crisscrossing trails would permit concealment and allow an easy shot. After studying the area and getting consent from Steve Hansen, Jones selects a round clump of brush and begins digging. He has chosen this spot because the wind will blow from the deer trail to his blind, and the deer are used to seeing these brush clumps. Always ask permission from the landowner prior to digging or cutting vegetation. When making a pit blind, dig it 24 to 30 inches deep and 5 to 6 feet in diameter. Mound the dirt around the edge and taper the dirt away from the blind. Place brush, grass, and weeds into the dirt to give your blind a natural look. Jones doesn't want a limb between him and a deer, so he carries ratchet-cut pruning shears in his pack. He can quickly and easily cut shooting lanes, build blinds, or trim limbs while in a tree stand. These durable shears ratchet, so you can even cut hardwood limbs with ease. Always ask permission to hunt, to trespass, or to cut vegetation. If the landowner allowed you to hunt but doesn't want you to cut vegetation, use a cord to tie the limbs and branches out of your way. Take the time to observe where deer feed and bed, and when and where they travel. This will enable you to intelligently hunt and plan your ambush. When scouting, look for fresh droppings, deer tracks, rubbed trees, and scrapes. Once you locate ample sign and crisscrossing trails, locate a tree that will afford wind advantage, concealment, and allows you to see approaching deer when you place your tree stand. Where deer leave feed areas and cross open fields, a pit blind will be an effective hunting method. Once you have studied deer travel routes and prevailing winds, dig your pit so you'll have the wind advantage on the approaching deer, and you'll be within 20 yards of traveled trails. An unseasonal cold storm changes deer patterns and behavior, so Larry and Rich adjust hunt plans. They dig a new pit where they've watched deer leave a cornfield, walk across open grass, and funnel through an opening in the fence. Rich decides to sit in the pit from early afternoon until last legal light. Rich Thompson makes his home near Hillsboro, Oregon, and has been bow hunting since 1960. He's an accomplished hunter and has bagged bear, elk, mule deer, black-tailed deer, white-tailed deer, caribou, and other species of game. Rich loves to shoot longbow and recurve, and practices regularly, striving to be an excellent shot. Rich passes the time by watching non-game wildlife and by keeping a continued vigilance for approaching deer. It is essential to spot deer while they're at a distance so you can be prepared to shoot as they pass through the shooting lanes. During the next several days, Rich has plenty of deer pass within easy shooting distance, but his goal is to shoot a mature buck, so he enjoys watching unsuspecting deer walk past. The most difficult elements of hunting from a pit are staying in the blind and keeping warm. Rich is prepared for the cold by selecting polypropylene long johns and Kathy Kelly designed fleece clothing. He has layered himself with a fleece vest, coat, pants, hood, and gloves. He's wearing pack boots to reduce his scent, 2 layers of wool socks, and wool boot liners for warmth, and has chemical hand warmers in his pockets to keep his hands comfortable. Only small bucks and does pass by the pit, so Rich and Larry scout another part of the Hanson's ranch, and they spot turkey tracks in the snow. You're allowed 2 turkey tags, and both of these guys have them.
Quite a few turkey tracks here.
Boy, there sure is, Larry. Hey, how about if I call? I hear one over there.
Yeah, I thought I heard one too.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go get in the trees. who you went for, and we'll tap him out. Oh yeah, here, look. Some blood. Gonna try it. And more blood. Let's swallow him. I think that tastes really good. Looks like it's went all the way through.
Nice bird, Larry. Congratulations.
Thanks. It's a hen, but it's fall, it's legal.
Let's get a look at him.
Almost Thanksgiving. I'm a happy guy.
Put her there, buddy.
Thank you. This is the first time I ever tracked a turkey. Well, let's take you back.
Let's get that thing going.
After several days of scouting, Rich locates a spot where small ridges converge, forming a natural funnel. He selects a tree near crisscrossing deer trails, and where he'll have wind advantage, and climbs 10 feet up to set his tree stand. Rich decides to wear a different camo pattern because he knows it's essential to wear clean, odor-free clothing, and patterns which make him less visible while in the tree. He carries rattling antlers, a grunt call, scent, hand warmers, food, water, and survival gear in his backpack, so if necessary, he can stay in the stand all day. Watching birds, squirrels, and other wildlife are some of the reasons hunters enjoy being in the outdoors, and it helps break the monotony of passing time. To Rich, it seems like he's been waiting hours, but it's only been 30 minutes since he shot the buck. Eager to gather information by examining blood, hair, and other sign, he climbs down. Rich has seen enough sign to determine the buck will expire quickly, so after tracking a short distance, he returns to the truck to wait for Larry.
time to enjoy the apple.
Oh yeah, I sure did. But guess what?
What?
Shot a nice buck about 8 o'clock this morning.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he came down the west side of the draw, just following these does down the draw, and all of a sudden they kind of all spooked back up the draw, and I thought, better do something.
And a couple soft grunts.
Couple of soft grunts, and he just stood there looking around wondering who made that noise.
Yeah.
And he just started walking down the trail. He just hung up for the longest time, it seemed like, behind this cedar tree, you know,
Yeah.
probably about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But I was waiting, and he just started to step out and got everything tense, and he looked up at me at the last second, and I just released.
How far away was it?
11 yards. Can you
What?
believe that?
Why did you call me? Yeah. So, how long ago did you hit this buck?
It's been a couple hours now.
Plenty of time.
Yeah.
Let's pack it out. Get your bow there.
Boy, it was a nice one.
It's a nice one, huh?
Man, yeah.
The snow makes tracking easy, and within a short distance, they find Rich's buck.
Boy, that's a beautiful buck. Beautiful buck. Congratulations. Good shoot. Nice shot, man. Oh, I'm happy for you. Isn't he a beauty?
He's got some stuff back here where he's been rubbing. He's got his tail.
Look at the gray antlers. Boy, they sure are pretty.
It's just almost white. You can see that.
Yeah,
Like a ghost out there. Transparent.
that's gonna make you pretty mounted. It's awfully easy. Well, let's go get our packs and cameras. Good job on it, huh?
Right.
Nice going. I'm really tickled for you.
Larry decides to rove and use antlers, grunts, and bleats to call deer. When selecting a blind, he carefully chooses a clump of brush or trees, so he'll be concealed and blend into the vegetation. Other considerations are how far the sound will travel, wind direction, being able to see deer approaching, and being concealed, yet having openings, so he'll be able to shoot. Calling and rattling from a tree is a good technique because being above the brush allows you to easily see approaching deer. You're less apt to have deer see you draw your bow, and your scent could float over the deer. Jones spots some does across a small canyon and suspects a buck may be near, so he nestles near a bushy tree and calls. When mating, a doe will select the buck, so it's not uncommon for the doe to come to the sounds of antler rattling, grunts, and bleats. These deer are feeling their oats, and Larry is delighted to see the chase. Having an experience like this would make anyone feel like they had a perfect hunt. motionless will increase your chances for success. You can bring deer to you by using calls and antlers, thus providing opportunity at deer which you probably wouldn't see or know they were in the area without calling. There are several sounds to use while calling deer. All species of deer respond to bleats, grunts, fawn balls, and the rattling of antlers. Each sound has a unique application and may work better during different times of the year. To have results with calls, you must have faith that the calls work and continue to call even when you aren't having results. Not every deer will respond. When they do, it's like magic. Using calls and antlers at different locations will allow your calls to be heard by more deer. When roving and calling, choose each location carefully so you'll have a shot opportunity when a deer responds. Early the next morning, Larry's in another tree stand and is having fun watching deer. A doe and her fawn walk underneath his stand and head toward a small stream for a morning drink. This doe realizes something is different about this tree, but because Larry is wearing camouflage and isn't moving, the doe relaxes and continues. Larry's Nebraska hunt has come to an end. He hasn't bagged a deer, but he's been able to shoot a turkey and has had great fun watching a lot of wildlife, like these deer as they gracefully jump this high fence. A year later, Rich and Larry hunt Iowa farm country. Small tracts of hardwoods intermingled between harvested fields of corn, soybean, and hay. And larger woodlots hold suitable deer numbers. Great places for a fair chase hunt. After acquiring permission from several farmers, they have spent some days scouting before hunting. They have located fresh deer sign, crisscrossing trails, and places to ambush deer. Now that they've gathered a lot of information, they're pinpointing the best locations to hunt.
Yeah, he's been working it. See that stick there? That was there the other day, so he hasn't been back. But there's a lot of trails up here, and then there's a nice rub.
Okay.
And I think it's a really good spot to put up a stand. Let's go look at that.
Okay.
And there's that rub.
Oh, yeah.
He's a pretty good buck.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trails running around like back through here, just crisscross. So I think this would be a good area to set up a stand.
Let's get to it. What do we need?
I got everything I need right in my pack. I got I got the saw, of course you can see the tree stand. So, then we'll set up one here, and then I'll go find you a spot.
Okay.
Okay?
Early the next morning, before climbing into his tree stand, Larry sprinkles scent where two trails crisscross. Within an hour, a small 7-point buck ambles through the area, probably searching for food or a doe in heat. Placing the scent where you want a deer to stop is a good technique. Notice this buck's reaction as he sucks in a whiff of scent and how the scent has stopped him in a predetermined spot. This often enables you to have a relaxed, unhurried, standing shot while the deer is engrossed in the scent. Again, Larry has moved to another location, has set up his tree stand, and spots a buck moving through the brush. So he calls, attempting to bring the buck closer. Don't move or call when a deer is looking in your direction, or he'll surely see you. Notice how Larry waits until the buck's head is obscured by trees before calling. He's also using his hunter's helper armband to hold his call, so by scarcely moving, he can be ready to shoot and still make grunts. The buck is looking for what he assumes is another deer. But since he doesn't see one, he becomes suspicious and circles. It's obvious this buck has been fighting. You can see his hair has been ripped from his back. An aggressive buck like this will come to the call intending to challenge any buck invading his territory. Larry can't sucker this buck closer for a quality shot, so he just watches as the buck vanishes into the brush. Rich's scouting has paid off. He's climbed into his stand at first light and is having some action. Although the buck is within shooting distance, he's quartering toward Rich, so Rich decides to wait for a better shot angle. As the buck feeds, he eventually reaches the trail which Rich has walked to get to his tree, and the buck picks up scent obviously left by Rich earlier. Rich realizes the buck has scented danger, but doesn't want to move while the buck is alert, so he patiently waits for the right moment to draw. Before Rich has a shot opportunity, the buck trots out of bow range. All Rich can do is stop him with a grunt call. Once deer have scented human, nothing will bring them back. Larry enjoys calling deer and knows from experience being diligent pays off. So we find him calling from another tree. He's tied his antlers to a cord and has dropped them to the ground and clatters them by jerking the cord up and down. The concept is to make antler and thrashing sounds at ground level, so deer will be looking for another deer on the ground instead of looking upward into the tree. He has rattled and called in 2 bucks within 5 minutes, but he's miscalculated wind direction. The crosswind is swirling to the center of the opening and then curling back towards the approaching deer. Once Jones realizes his mistake, he stops calling, removes his stand, and scouts for another location. The best method for reducing your scent is to bathe daily with unscented soap, use unscented underarm deodorant, keep away from strong human odors, and hunt in clean clothing. Although you can't fool a deer's nose, scent can be a useful tool. You can use it to stop a deer in a predetermined spot or to bring them within shooting distance. Always select ambush locations and hunt so the wind will flow from the animal or from the trails they use to you. Place attractant scent on your rubber boots and then walk to your ambush location. Squirt scent where you want the animal to stop and on both sides of your ambush site. So if wildlife circle, they will smell the scent and come to investigate before they smell you. Always use a safety belt when placing your tree stand in a tree. Once secured, climb into your tree stand, attach your safety belt, and then pull up your bow and arrows with a cord. A few days later, Jones has found another location and has been at his stand for several hours. A buck has walked a trail downwind of Larry's stand and acts nervous, as if he scented danger. Larry tries to bring the buck into close range, but the buck is wary. All the grunt call will do is stop him. There are several reasons why Jones is hunting different locations. Deer quickly learn you are in the area because you leave human scent as you travel to and from your stand. And sometimes deer see you. It only takes about 3 days for the deer to know you're in the area, and they will avoid your hunting spot altogether. By changing to a new location, Jones multiplies his chances for success. After having several encounters with whitetails that come to the call but circle because they haven't seen another deer, Jones decides to try a realistic-looking decoy. He places the decoy near the edge of a field where it's visible, makes a brush pile, and positions the decoy so a buck can't charge from the rear, but will circle under his stand to face the decoy. Jones adds more realism by applying James Valley wall hanger scent to the front and rear of the decoy. He has also worn latex gloves to reduce human scent contamination on the decoy. Although this buck has been shot at, the combination of grunts and the decoy stops him. Curiosity overpowers this buck's common sense, and he begins to circle. Larry continues to pique the buck's interest by making a few soft grunts. Each time the buck hears the grunts, he stops and intently watches the decoy. As he begins to trot in a circle, his tail standing straight up is a signal that he is interested, and he's going to respond to the call. The circling buck eventually approaches within 15 yards of the motionless decoy and senses something is wrong. His alert and watchful eye detects movement in the tree. These Wily Whitetail have Jones frustrated, but Rich has had success. So let's join them as they discuss Rich's adventure.
Oh, Danny Buck, you got it, man.
Well, thanks, Larry. I'm real happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm real happy. It's been a great hunt. You know, just not only the deer, but all the wildlife that's here. It's a pretty incredible area.
Yeah.
Well, it started off in the morning. Some raccoons came scurrying back down the hill. I never did see exactly where they ended up. They get lost in the brush or something else catches your attention, like the squirrels. They're so much fun to watch. You're just sitting in the stand, just cracking up watching.
Yeah.
They go up and down the trees and around the trees like racehorses, just on a tree. Turkeys, you could hear them in the background.
Yeah. I see turkeys.
But something that I had never seen here before was little quail. And
I think they're probably bobwhites.
Bobwhites?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. That was really neat though, watching all the other animals. And the place is lousy with deer.
Wow, that's good.
This buck that I got, I've been watching him off and on for 5 days. And it was pretty neat the way it went down. First thing happened was a little fawn walked out and was feeding around the stand. And he cut back and went up into the funnel area. And all of a sudden he just broke into doing some little fawn bleats. There's one of those corn dryers was going in the background. It was pretty hard to hear him over that. But every time he kind of take a step, he just whang, whang, whang.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, Mama heard him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she came down, jumped the fence, and he had gone over the hill into the creek at that point. And as soon as he heard her jump the fence, I guess, he came right back up and they met. And they kind of milled around below the stand. They were very close. They were 15, 20 yards at that point. The mother all of a sudden got a little bit tense and nervous. And then she looked up at me. And I thought, uh-oh. I of course, didn't move a muscle, and she wasn't sure. But I guess she had her fawn now, and she wasn't taking any chances. So it went, from the head fakes, and then it escalated into the foot stomping, and then finally she just had to snort. Yeah. Oh, just what you don't want to hear, because you figure that every deer in the countryside is going to be gone. That wasn't the case.
Oh, really?
They finally bounded off over the fence, and so I sat back and kind of relaxed a little bit, and you know how you get that sensation that something's behind you, and I looked back over my shoulder, and there was the buck again. He was coming in downwind. It kind of concerned me that he was going to catch my scent.
Oh, yeah.
So I tried actually calling a couple times and directing it off in a different direction that I wanted him to go so he wouldn't get downwind of me. But he kept coming and kept coming. And all of a sudden his head just kind of went down and teeth came out. And I laid in a scent trail that morning. Put a little bit of scent on my boots as I walked into the stand. So he was probably getting a hit of that.
Oh.
At that point, he still wanted to go across my scent trail wherever it was going, and he had me kind of hung up in the tree with my bow up in the air like this, because I didn't know if I was going to have to shift or what. Well, he finally did commit, and he came through an opening and presented a shot, and I took it. He only made it 40 yards. He ran over to the fence and just kind of stood out there and looked, and at that point I took advantage of the quiet, and I grunted a couple more times, and thought maybe that would hold him there, so it wouldn't have any more tracking to do. And darn if it didn't, he just went down right there.
Wow.
And,
Hard tracking though.
yeah, end of story. Yeah.
That's super.
Yeah.
Fantastic day watching all the wildlife.
Oh,
wow.
it was just, it's a neat area. I really enjoyed my hunt here.
My turn, isn't it?
You're up.
I hope so.
And hey, there's still a bigger buck in that area.
Larry decides to take Rich's advice, but chooses to do some more scouting before placing his tree stand.
Wow. I like to get a buck like that. That's a dandy.
Finding a tree that has been thrashed by a buck's antlers is a good rut sign and indicates a buck is working in the area. If you find several trees rubbed and big trees rubbed, usually this indicates a mature buck has aggressively rubbed his scent into the trees, and he is likely to return. Scout further and look for large tracks, torn and gouged crisscrossing trails and scrapes. If you find this type of sign, you've found a good spot to set up an ambush. Larry has found a scrape with additional buck sign nearby. He's convinced this is a good spot, but he decides to gather more information before hunting. He places some James Valley wall hanger scent in the scrape. He hopes this will arouse the buck. It will cause him to return several times to the scrape. He wants to know when the buck is visiting the scrape, so he attaches a trail timer at deer body height. This multiple event infrared trail timer detection device will record the day and time as an animal walks through the beam. With this information, Larry will know the best time to be waiting overhead in a nearby tree. His trail timer has registered deer activity during the morning hours, so after analyzing wind direction, Larry selects a tree which affords wind advantage and places his stand. The next morning, as Jones quietly approaches his tree, he's careful not to spook deer or to touch vegetation, thus leaving his scent. By first light, he's into his tree stand and has attached his safety belt and is silently watching and listening as the morning dawns. simulating deer bleats with his deer grunt call has attracted a buck. Disgusted because a branch has deflected his arrow, Jones says a silent prayer. He hopes his razor-sharp broadhead has severed the buck's femoral artery, and he'll quickly die. The 1 hour wait before trailing drags by, providing plenty of time to mull over his shot and the various results. When tracking an animal, to avoid stepping on sign, walk to one side of the trail. Carefully examine hair, blood, and body tissue, which all are clues to where you hit the animal. Proceed slowly, diligently following tracks, and use the blood to confirm you're trailing the right animal. If an animal is not hit in the vital area, the broadhead is designed so that the arrow will eventually fall out and the animal will heal and survive. After careful inspection, Jones feels the arrow has sliced the femoral artery and the buck should be dead. After 50 more yards of tracking, Larry sheds his warm vest, then continues.
Whoa! Wow, what a trophy! He's a nasty old buck. Nasty, nasty. I think this is the same buck that got that shit antler I found. Wow. If I do it down here a little bit. I'm a happy guy.
Although it's taken Larry several years to harvest a colting young buck, he's enjoyed being on all of these hunts. Each adventure is a unique experience and a different challenge. These are just a few of the reasons why hunters enjoy hunting, and bringing home tasty, low-fat meat for the family is a bonus. Now hold on there, don't touch the rewind button or you'll miss exciting previews and some interesting information. A special thanks to the following people and companies: